Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am super excited about my guest today. And I'm really excited because if you want to talk about like telephone tag and all of the other things that we keep like trying to get together and we keep missing each other, and the fact that we made it happen today, I'm like really excited. But we're going to read her bio and bring her on. She's amazing. I'm glad that we met, and I think that by the time we're done, you're going to think she's as amazing as I do. So, Dr. Melissa Bird is a descendant of the Shivwitz Band of Paiutes. She is a nationally recognized Episcopal lay preacher, author, healer, and podcaster. Dr. Bird has made hundreds of keynote speeches and workshops before audiences at universities, conferences, and religious institutions worldwide. Her combination of education, real-life experience, and practical advice makes her a powerful force of change in the lives of the people she connects with. Past audience members have described her speaking as fierce, revelatory, life-changing, enthusiastic, and inspirational. Dr. Bird creates the genesis for a new brand of leadership and graceful revolution. She inspires personal understanding through contemplation, helps people use their intuition to change their lives and communities, and encourages the healing of grief and loss through spiritual connection. She's the host of the Thinnest Veil podcast and the author of SAGE, S-A-G-E, Guide to Social Work Careers, Your Journey to Advocacy, and the co-author of the best-selling book, Women Connected in Wisdom, Stories and Resources Rooted in the 8 Dimensions of Wellness. Can't wait to talk about that. Her new ebook, Love Notes and Prayers, Guidance for the Soul, can be found wherever ebooks are sold. When she's not working, she can be found reading trashy novels, I love that, while drinking Earl Grey tea with heavy cream. Okay, isn't that like a no-no? Anyway, she lives in Corvallis, Oregon with her husband, 3 children, 2 dogs, and 1 3-legged cat. So, without further ado, let's meet Melissa.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I always love it when people read my bio. I think, dang, she sounds super rad.
I mean, I get it. I completely get that. But the first thing I have to address, because some people that I that are in my audience are in the UK. Mm-hmm. Earl Grey tea with cream.
I know. I listen. It is a no, but it is this indulgence. It is an indulgence that I like. There's something about the creaminess with the bergamot that just, ooh, it brings me, it fills my heart with a light that I cannot explain. So, yes.
Then it's not wrong.
I'm a series of contradictions though, so it's totally fine.
But there you go. It's like if loving Earl is wrong, you don't want to be right. So
that's right. Exactly.
Sorry, I had to. It was just like,
oh, it was really good. I was here from. I'm open and responsive.
I mean, I know that. And, we've had a couple of conversations before and I've loved our conversations. So to be able to bring you to my audience really warms my heart. And the fact that we've finally been able to connect warms my heart even more because holy shit. I mean, you talk about 2 ships passing, not even in the night. It was like passing in I don't even know what happened. But okay. So tell us about Melissa.
Tell you about me. Oh gosh, there's so much to tell. So, I worked, I'm a social worker with a master's degree and a PhD in social work. And, I actually have a bachelor's degree in early childhood development and thought I was going to be a preschool teacher for my entire life, which is so funny. I think about that now and I think, that's interesting. So, I never practiced. I worked for nonprofits for 20 plus years, did the whole social worky thing, whatever. But I never practiced clinical social work. I did in school, but I didn't after I got out. When I was in school, I took a public policy class and my professor, I went to the University of Utah. And so this is back like early 2000s. Oh my gosh. It was 24 years ago.
Okay. Wow.
Which is a little bit bananas. And we had this professor, Dr. Emma Gross, who was this really beautiful butch lesbian woman who rocked my entire world. Everyone else was terrified of her. And I was like, can I have more of your brain? Like, this is amazing, right? It was so inspiring. And when I was getting my master's degree, I did research on homeless youth. And it was the first research that had been done in Utah, specifically looking at homeless LGBT youth. And in that process of doing that research, I realized that the law in Utah specifically said you could not shelter a youth for longer than 8 hours without parental consent or emancipation. And we didn't have an emancipation law. 8 hours. Yes. Yes. Thank you for that look on your face. I'm super grateful for it. So I knew we didn't have an emancipation law. And so I turned on Metallica and pulled out my Marlboro Reds and wrote. And now this is pre like Google's, right? Like this is when you have to pick up the phone and call legislators and like do all this stuff like in the olden times. And so I got in touch with the Child Welfare League of America. They had a project with Lambda Legal to help LGBTQ kids in foster care. Wow. And through them, I found out all the states that had emancipation laws. I pulled all the sentences, created my own emancipation law, called an elected official that I knew and said, hey, Roz, would you be willing to sponsor this bill? And she said, sure, send me what you've got. And I sent it to her. She called me back like 10 minutes later and she goes, nobody writes the legislation before they ask a legislator to do this. You do know that this is very unusual. And I said, well, Roz, it wouldn't be me if it was, I'm always here for the unusual. And I taught myself how to be a lobbyist. And we got that law passed into law 2 years later, where we passed an emancipation law in Utah. I taught myself how to build communities and how to build. I became really good friends with the former attorney general. The governor knew me by name. And we created this alliance. We didn't talk about the queer kids so much because that's dangerous territory in Utah, especially 25 years ago, right?
Oh, but God.
Yeah. But what that ended up doing is pushing me into this career as a professional lobbyist. And I actually ended up working for Equality Utah. After I finished my master's degree, I worked for Equality Utah, and then I got hired as the chief lobbyist for Planned Parenthood of Utah. And I did that all the way until I left to get my PhD. And I went to get my PhD at USC, University of Southern California, which sometimes I lovingly refer to as the University of Spoiled Children, but that's another podcast. And and my PhD built upon all my work with Planned Parenthood. So I wrote and passed 6 laws for Planned Parenthood of Utah. Proudly can say I killed every anti-abortion piece of legislation for 6 years in a row, which is my claim to fame. After I left, they had a heyday, but before that, it was awesome. And then my research, when I did my research, I researched how women navigate religious stigma to get contraception in rural California. And I did 68 interviews with women in rural California to find out their experiences. And it was, I left crying every day. And I was down by the Mexican border. I was in a place called El Centro, which is 6 miles from the Mexican border. And it was amazing. It was incredible. And I got my PhD and promptly was like, why don't I run my own business? What a lovely idea. Who wants to work in the ivory tower of academia? Well, they won't hire me because my research is on reproductive justice. In reproductive justice, you can't get money for an R1 institution in reproductive justice. Nobody's studying that because nobody cares. They really don't. Like, I'm very candidly crap about, it's the ivory tower of academia is really another podcast. But what happened is I was like, I could start my own business. I went on a retreat and this was the beginning of the end of that. So like, she's like, you could be a life coach. Cause everybody was becoming a life coach back in 2017. It was like,
oh yeah.
I've been listening to a podcast called A Little Bit Culty. And I was like, why don't we have a life coach episode? I'm waiting to find out if there's a life coach episode because hello. So anyway.
It's funny that you say that because I remember, and I can't believe that this is like, how long ago it is. But I remember that I was in this group and there were like 4 people and I was like, what are you doing? I'm a life coach. What do you do?
Oh, yeah.
Life coach.
life coach.
How are you, like, what is your certification?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
are you certified? And it's
Right.
like, well, kind of, but I've gone through a lot of things and I know.
No,
That
no,
does
you're
not
not.
coach make you. That
And the social worker in me, right? Like I literally have 2 degrees in social work, and like, can I do clinical yeah, sure, I can. I don't want to. It's not my jam. But what I focused on, because we were post 2016, right?
Mhm.
So what I focused on, what I created was built on all my lobbying. I taught social justice in the schools of social work for years. So I took all that information and I wanted to bring it to the masses. Like, if you're mad about the 2016 election, here's all the things that I can help you learn without you having to go get a master's degree in social work. And so I just took all that knowledge that I'd had for so long and just started distributing it to women. But what ended up happening, Iris, and here was the thing, the reason you don't see life coach in my bio anymore is because I realized I was doing so much more than that. That I was healing I was working with people who were coming to me because I could give them, we could work together to gather this insight and this knowledge that they had all the answers within them already. Like, they didn't need some special person to tell them. They just needed a kick in the pants. And I could use all this knowledge that I had along with, all the tools that I use to help people gain insight and clarity into what they're doing, which is way more than coaching. Like, it is, I take people through very much a spiritual process, which I did not intend to do, by the way. Like, growing up as a queer feminist in Utah, like, that was not my intention to help people heal spiritually. But then here I am, like, queer kid growing up in Utah, like, oh, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to not feel loved by your family and by your community. And so I ended up doing a lot of spiritual healing, and it just has snowballed into this thing that it's pretty amazing.
Well, it is an amazing journey. To where you are now. I kind of feel like, you talk about 2016, and that always just, for me, is a trigger. And I rarely talk about it, but it was a trigger. Mm-hmm. And what the country looks like now from what it looked like then.
Yeah.
It's just, it's amazing. So how did
amazing is a word, Iris.
I'm trying to.
I know.
I mean, look, I'll just say it. It's fucked up right now.
Yeah.
Things are fucked up. And, people know my politics that listen to this. So it is what it is. However, I just got back from a trip from Germany. Mm. Yeah. And which is why I sound like this, because God knows what I got from there. But, and we were in Dachau.
Oh God.
And it was weird because we were supposed to do this like English speaking tour, right? Yeah. They were like 1:00, you have an English speaking tour. And when we got there, they were like, the tour is canceled. So I took that as, we're supposed to do whatever we can. Not what we're supposed to. So long story short, we go into the administration building and I'm reading all of the stuff. Yeah. And my wife is in the other room because we were, like going through things a little differently. And there was this French gay couple that was next to me. And they didn't know I was American or not, but we're reading this thing and it said, how did the National Socialist, Party come to be, blah, blah, blah. And the guy looks at his partner and he goes, and those stupid fucking Americans are letting it happen now.
Oh, yeah.
And it just, like, a chill ran up my spine.
Isn't it amazing, though, how you get placed in the exact place at the exact time? Like, I I think about this a lot. I just gave you the Reader's Digest condensed version of my career, basically, right?
Right.
Every single thing, even being a preschool teacher at a low income preschool on the west side of Salt Lake County, right? Like as a 19-year-old kid who grew up in Park City, Utah, like left school to go skiing every day, right? Like all of these moments in my life are leading to this one. Like I'm sitting back here watching what's happening, going, oh, like I am here in these moments with all this knowledge and purpose, like you being in that place halfway across the world to listen to these people say that. It's a moment of affirmation. I think like what that says to me is, oh, what I'm feeling and what my intuition is telling me about what's happening is not wrong.
Oh, it's 100% right. And
Right.
I'm
And
seeing it
thank
from
God, because we're all getting told that we're wrong from all these other external media sources, right?
yeah. I don't
But
listen
like,
to media anymore. I mean, and I
right.
do
But like,
a podcast.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
even people in the grocery store talking about this, like, oh, it's not a big deal what's going on with the Supreme Court. Really?
it's a
Right.
big
So
fucking deal. What's going on with the
yeah,
Supreme Court? It's a big
right.
deal. What's
And
going
it's not
on?
about politics. This isn't about politics. This is about what is happening all over this country affects all of us. It doesn't just affect those people over there.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And hearing it, like you said, I was kind of like, whoa.
Yeah.
So people are watching. The world is watching.
Yeah.
All eyes right now are on us. I mean, it is what it is. But what struck me was that before the election, I was telling everybody, please don't like I see the writing on the wall, we're light workers, we're woo, we're all the things. I saw the writing on the wall. I said, but they're not going to go after gay marriage and they're not going to go after Roe. They're never going to do that. And I was like, I am telling you, like, I am begging you, if you truly love me, you're not going to vote that way.
Yeah.
And they voted that way.
Yeah.
And they still don't see it. Some of them do, but some of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are still like, yeah, but the money thing. Pardon me, fuck the money thing. You're talking about people's lives. You're talking about people's,
I said this all the time when I worked for Planned Parenthood, and I couldn't get people to get riled up and do what, to email their elected officials and all that stuff. And I thought, well, you're going to have to lose it so you can see what you had.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
Yeah. And I think that I'm hoping that people wake up before November. That's all that I can hope. So I think they're going to. I really, in my heart, I believe it's going to be okay as far as November goes. So, but anyway, I don't know how the hell we got on that. I never talk politics.
I don't know. Probably like I was talking about Planned Parenthood and politics and my job.
Probably just and it's the damn steroids. I'm going to blame the steroids. Okay. So what, so you said that, you're like, oh, I'm going to start my own business. What gave you the impetus? What made you want to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I think part of it was that I went on this retreat with this coach and she was like, you could totally be an entrepreneur and, whatever. And I was like, I don't really know. I just want to stand on stages in front of thousands of people and inspire humans to go be awesome. Like that's really, Iris, that legitimate. I remember sitting with her in Scotland and being like, that's what I want to do. I just want to stand on stages and be awesome. That's really all I want. And, and what Susan said to me was, well, you could really run your own business. And I was like, no, I am a social worker. People like, what is this business shenanigan stuff? And of course, this is the heyday of the sales funnel and the website and the whatchamacallits. And like, there's these processes. And I'm like sitting over here going, well, I could make myself a Microsoft Word document and make it look pretty and put it on a website. Like I'd done the website for my job at Planned Parenthood. Like I learned HTML code because we were running on the shoestring budget. And,
right.
There were some things I could pay someone to design the website, but I had to update the website, right? Like, so I was like, whatevs. And
I wish I knew.
Sure, I'm in a business. That sounds great. And then, you need a newsletter. And I was like, I need a newsletter. Well, what goes in my newsletter? And they're like, whatever you want. And I was like, well, fuck, I could talk all day long about whatever the fuck I want. I'm like, okay. Oh, can I swear? I'm swearing. Okay. So
you're fine.
I was like, all right, I'll do a newsletter. Y'all subscribe.
And this on this. You're fine.
But yeah, I have one of those too. So I'm like, I'll just do a newsletter and just talk about whatever I want, whatever's on my mind. Well, then I was like, but I want to be on stages. I don't want this coachy stuff. Like, whatever. Like, I just want to do this. I want to teach. I really wanted to teach women how to find what they were passionate about and then go do that thing in their community. Because what I know for sure from all of these years working for nonprofit organizations, if every single one of us is lit up by something different. So what lights you up is not what lights me up, vice versa, right? I live in a house with other human beings. I live with 2 teenagers and my husband. My husband just went to Alaska. But these teenager human things, like, boy, are they passionate about things that I'm like, I don't understand even the verbiage that is coming out of your mouth. I feel so much like my mom. Like, I'm like, I don't understand this language that y'all are using. Like the Riz and all that. I'm like, I don't get it. So, but I think about these people that I actually live with in my household who have completely different passions than mine. And what I wanted when I first became an entrepreneur was to help people figure out what that was so that we didn't have 2016 again. That was my whole goal, was to help people figure out what lights them up, turns them on, makes them go so that they could go and do that thing in their world. Because I know that's how we make change in our communities, right? I wanted to help people connect to community. Like, that's a core tenet of who I am as a human being. I've always been that way. I mean, I'm a social worker, right? So what happened was I ended up getting into the process of running a business, right? So like I said, you have to have a sales funnel. Well, they say you have to have a sales funnel and you have to have an online presence and you have to do a newsletter and you have to have a website. And I was like, I don't have any dollars. Like, I just graduated from one of the most expensive universities on the planet. I just relocated with my disabled veteran husband to Corvallis, Oregon from LA, right? So he could finish his degree at Oregon State University because he never went to college. So I convinced him to go to college on the GI Bill, right? I was like, dude, you want to go to college? Go to college. Like, they'll pay for it for you. It's free. Right. So like, I'm like, who has any business starting a business with no money? Oh, me, apparently. Because now it's been 7 years. Wow. And apparently I can do this thing, right? So I'm like rolling along. I'm not getting customers or clients or whatever the way I wanted to. And I'm certainly not getting any speaking gigs and becoming a world famous motivational speaker with a book deal. But what did happen was I started going live on Facebook on Mondays and Fridays. And I did Monday Mayhem and Fuck Shit Up Friday. And because my coach, Susan, my business coach, was like, that's what you should do. And she's like, you got to be consistent. Because, I'm sitting here watching motivational videos myself on YouTube, like playing Candy Crush, wondering why I can't get any money. So I started going live. And all of a sudden, people started watching. And I'm talking about like Iris, I am making things up. I'm just talking about whatever I want to. Like, at one point, I decided to quit talking and only hold up signs like that I had hand. Oh, look at those fireworks. Where did that come from?
I don't know.
That was really beautiful.
It's playing in the background.
It's almost
in the
like,
background.
No, that was my computer. This has been happening to me. Yeah, it's like my spirit guides talk all the time when I do magical things. So anyway, I held up these signs, and it happens a lot to me, Iris, I promise. I've never seen the fireworks, though. That's brand new. I get balloons and thumbs ups and hearts, and I think it's some setting on my computer. But anyway, that was awesome. Apparently, they're happy with what I'm talking about. So anyway, I'd hold up signs and like say things like, you had to read the signs, and it was like tidbits about my life and goals I had and things I wanted to do and why you should pay attention to what's happening in your community. And all of a sudden I started getting this following, and people are like, this is awesome. And like, I was all, huh. And all of a sudden I had like 2,000 followers on Facebook, and I was like, that's weird. And then I started creating these classes and going, I would go to places where I wanted to see my friends. So like I had a friend in Atlanta. And so I was like, hey, I'm going to come and do this class and we can hang out. She's like, okay. So I started traveling all over the country doing, it was called Fanning the Flames. And I went and saw a friend in Michigan. I went to California. Like, I was like, I don't want to hang out here by myself with these humans. I want to travel and do things. And so I did. And then I was really getting going. And I created this thing called Rebel School. So awesome. Like a 6-week course or something that eventually turned into an 18-week course. Rebel School was rad. That turned into the Art of the Graceful Revolution. But then the little pandemic thing happened. And what that did actually forced me to focus on this business, because I was like, well, I can't leave the house. So I got to focus on what I really want and what I really want to do. And that's when Rebel School really blew up, is all of a sudden I was enrolling people in Rebel School and teaching people, like 10 or 15 people at a time, this process about healing, shame, and wounding, like really focusing on healing, shame, and wounding, all from a lifetime of it, right? And then learning how to identify your intuition and use your intuition to make a difference in your life and your community. And then tools, spiritual tools of discernment, connection, magic, spirituality, so that you're healing, you're tapping in, and then you're using these tools to be able to go out into the world and figure out what you're doing in life. And it was rad. And it was so rad all the way up until last year. And then something really bizarre happened. I still have no idea what it is, but nobody signed up for that group program for the very first time since I launched it in 2018.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So what did you do?
I had a nervous breakdown, legitimately. Like, I totally broke down. I went into a hole. I cried for like 5 weeks. My husband had gone to Alaska to work as a fisheries observer in Alaska. So it was me alone with my teenagers. I love them. I really, really, don't get me wrong, y'all, people. I do love my children, but man, I was not making money. I was like, what am I doing with my life? Who am I? I felt like I did at the very beginning of running my business. Like, I was like, who am I? What am I doing? Just totally lost it for like a month. And then I was like, well, I love to write. I love to talk. You know, I'm really good at those things. So I started my podcast and I started a Substack. And I had been writing weekly love notes to my newsletter list for a year. And I thought, I'm just going to self-publish my love notes and prayers in a book. I'm going to write prayers for people. So I wrote these beautiful prayers. I love these prayers so much. They're so lovely. I wrote these prayers. I grabbed all my love notes I've been sending out for a year and I published them in an ebook myself because I couldn't get published. Nobody was publishing. That Sage Social Work book was a textbook that I wrote, you know, in collaboration with other people. And the women in wellness one, whatever it's called, I can't remember the title.
The 8 dimensions of wellness.
The 8 dimensions of what dimension was the word that was COVID bringing right out of me, because long haul COVID is real. Don't let anybody fool you. So the 8 dimensions of wellness, I did that, right? But those were collaborations and things that people came to me and asked me to do. But for me to publish the love notes and prayers was really me going, okay, how can I get this to more people? This idea that we are love and we are loved. This idea that we are all intricately connected to the land and to spirit and to the universe. And how can I get that to more people? And so that's what I did. I wanted to talk to more people about what it's like to be a Christian witch. And that's why I started The Thinnest Veil. What is it like to have all these intersections of being a bisexual person, being a lay preacher, you know, in a Christian church, practicing witchcraft, being an indigenous person in America right now? And what does that look like? And I just wanted to start talking to people and helping people know that, like, you are not alone in this journey that we are on as human beings. We are humans who are being right now. And we have things are hitting the fan. It's hitting the fan. And we really truthfully don't have any control over what's happening. And that freaks people out.
Yeah.
And so that's where I am now. I'm having a great time. Like, I'm doing these classes where along with the witches calendar. So like I did an in bulk event online, and then I just finished the spring equinox event online, and I'm doing some stuff in the fall with it. I love the equinoxes. They're like my favorite because no one ever focuses on them really, but they're like my favorite because they're the perfect balance between light and dark. And I find that to be such an endearing idea that yesterday was the day where light and dark was perfectly even. And I think, oh, like there's so much harmony in the light and the dark being together like that.
Was yesterday?
And that's what equinox is all about. Yesterday was spring equinox. Yeah.
Damn it. I swear, because I've been like sick. I haven't.
That's okay. That's all right.
Anyway,
you're all set. The fall equinox is coming. You're fine. So like, so it's just being an entrepreneur, I have found, is all about the fine art of being like, okay, what are we doing today? I have no idea.
You need
drove my husband nuts. He's like, what are you doing to bring in money today? And I was like, I honestly can't tell you that, James. Figure something out. I don't know.
And it's like, it's like, it's a long game, and it's,
oh yeah.
Right. I mean, and we all go through pivots. And I think that we're always evolving, right? Things are changing. So, my business has changed like 3 times in the last 2 years, but I think I finally, have where I want to be. But now, I'm the host of this podcast. It's now going to be on Apple TV and Roku. And then I'm the host of Unique Voices, which is also going to be on Apple TV and Roku. I think I'm going to change the name to The Bridge at some point.
Oh, nice. I love that.
Sooner than later, right?
Love that. Yes.
But I just kind of feel like, but I still have my business because I love what I do. But I also love this, and I love interviewing people and talking to people. And I'm going to start with public speaking. I'm working with a coach now where I'm going to start doing, public speaking, which if you would have told me this like 2 years ago, I'd be like, you're on crack. But here I am, and I can't wait to get on my first stage. I've done like, a couple of keynotes online. I've done like virtual stuff, but not in person. And that's the thing that I'm working on.
It's really fun.
And it's, and I'm a musician, right? I'm a professional musician. So I love being on stage anyway. I love entertaining. So to be able to incorporate, entertainment into speaking to me is, going to be, I can't wait. But, there are a lot of, entrepreneurs out there that, and we talked about this on one of the other podcasts that I did, that start and they're like, well, where's all my money? And it's like, this is that. And I'll say it 1,000 times, and I'll say it on every freaking podcast. And overnight success takes at least 10 years.
Yes.
It doesn't happen overnight.
And I really want people who are listening to this to know that people don't understand what it takes to run a small business.
Right.
That our general community out there think, they're Small Business Saturday and support your small businesses. They have no idea the lack of support that we have from our city governments, from our county governments, from the Small Business Administration. There's no money for women in business. There is no money for women in business. There's like maybe a couple million for the whole country. There's not enough resources for us to be fully resourced. in a small business. And I wish, my dream is for the general population to understand that if you know someone who is either running their own business on themselves, like a solopreneur, like they call the solopreneurs like me and you, or if they've got a small company that's less than 20 employees, or they've got that really cute boutique shop that you love to get your hats at and your stuffs and your cute clothes, those people are busting their butts. Like, and they're not taking paychecks. They are paying bills. They are not taking paychecks. And you are absolutely right. I remember my coach actually saying to me, "You're not going to see a profit for 4 or 5 years." And me going, "What?" And I actually did in like year 3.5, partly because of the pandemic, because I had to buckle down and I didn't have anywhere to go so I could do my thing. But that also ebbs and flows, right? It's not like you make a profit and then all of a sudden you just keep making a profit.
That's the kind of
when I'm saying profit, I am not talking that I'm making $100,000 profit. That is not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying like, oh, good, I could pay the bills this month, and I might have a little bit of pennies left over to buy myself some pants. Like,
right.
And that goes up and down, and it ebbs and it flows, and sometimes it's rad, and sometimes it's not. But I want the general world of entrepreneurs to know that you are not alone.
Right.
You are absolutely right that we are under-resourced and underappreciated as a driver of our economy.
I mean, 100%. And it's not, it's all fun and games until it's not, right? It's like one of those things where, I've had so many people be like, and I'll ask you, what advice do you have, for someone who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur? And when I think about that, it's like, for the person who took the step, it's brave. Who no doubt 100% it's brave because it's scary. Because now if my wife didn't have a decent career, we'd be screwed, on some months, 100%.
Yeah.
But she does. So we're very fortunate in that arena. However, I bust my ass every single day.
Yeah.
For my clients.
Yeah.
For my prospective clients and for my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it is like a 24/7 job. And people are like, oh, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to take a week off here. I'm going to take 3 weeks off here. Oh, hell no, you're not. I mean, you
know what? You are not sitting on a beach with your laptop and getting sand up your butt. You're not doing that either. Not. And you're getting sand in your laptop. And then it's just, you're not. That's not what's happening. It's just not.
You're sitting here like this with Grogu.
Yeah, you really are in your office like a lot. Yeah. So make it cushy and comfy. The advice that I do have for people who are thinking about becoming an entrepreneur is be ready to know that you are going to walk into the unknown every single day of your life. And sometimes there's a light and you can see it and it's rad and you're flowing and it's awesome. And sometimes you're like, what just happened? I don't understand. And caution yourself. I had to reframe this language for myself. I used to say to myself, well, maybe I should go out and get a real job. Being an entrepreneur and a business owner is a real job. It is your job, right?
Right.
And I wish someone would have told me that in 2017. Like, no, Missy, you don't need to go work in the ivory tower. You don't need to give up on your hopes and dreams. You don't need to go and sell yourself to the man. You don't need to go get a county job as a social worker. Like, you don't need to do those things. You can keep pursuing this to the best of your ability. And Jim did not have a job. Jim was a full-time disabled veteran student living off of his GI Bill and his VA disability when I started my business. We have been through the ringer with my business. And sometimes we have talks about it. Like, I'm like, okay, do I go and get a job? And Jim's like, no, because then we'd have to live with you being miserable and feeling like you gave up on yourself. And what can we do to support you and love you more? Like, what can I do? And it just, And somehow everything always seems to work out. And that's the other thing I would say to people who are thinking about becoming entrepreneurs and thinking about doing this bananas thing, right? Like be willing to surrender to the fact that you have this idea and you want to incubate it and love it and nourish it. And the more you do that, the stronger it grows, the deeper its roots, the higher its branches. But that takes a lot of sun and a lot of compost and a lot of water.
Yeah.
And if you nourish it and love on it and remember that no mud, no lotus, then you can build something that is beautiful and amazing and wonderful. And it takes time. It is not this whatever the hell, Iris, here's really when I was like, not only am I not a life coach, because I really know I'm not, but I don't even want to be affiliated with that, because I was watching them go from talking about the 6-figure income being the standard to the 7-figure income being the standard. And then last year it was the 8-figure income. And how can you get to 8 figures? And I was like, I'm fucking out.
Wow.
Like I'd been on the fence, because it's hard to tell people what you do when you don't have in America, we love titles. We love them. We love to lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning. I mean, I could go on with the alphabet, right? Like we love to put people in boxes and keep them there. And the minute that happened, I thought, I can't be associated with people thinking I am pursuing an 8-figure salary. That's bonkers to me.
It is. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine, Lindsay Hotmeyer. She's a fellow entrepreneur. And we met down at a place called Harry and Izzy's in Indianapolis. And it was like the first time we met. And so we were having dinner and we're having a glass of wine. And we were like, I don't want to be a millionaire. That's not why I'm in business. And there are like these groups out there that are like, you need to be like a 7-figure business. And it's like, at the end of the day, 7 figures in revenue for what I do, that's not out of the question. Income, no. That's a whole nother story, because everything is paying, right? I mean, so and people don't get the difference between revenue and what you actually get, how much money you actually have. And even that money you have to pay bills and taxes out of. So it's this whole thing.
Yeah. Taxes. That's another piece of advice I would give a new entrepreneur. Taxes.
Yeah.
You literally put your money away. Because let me tell you.
I finally got a bookkeeper this year.
Oh yeah. And hire a bookkeeper. Also, I have always had a bookkeeper, because I don't do money.
And I made so many.
Brain is not, no computing here. Right. So, I can get into your soul and like eke out the things and I can make you cry, but I cannot do math. So get a bookkeeper. And, I have had a series of really phenomenal assistants. I have been very blessed in that regard, that I have worked with. Ironically, they were all in England. These beautiful, amazing assistants that have helped me with the tech and helped me with the things that I did not understand, and have taught me and have been beautiful. So after I built the cheesy website with the offer, the freebie was like this Microsoft Word document I turned into a PDF. I finally did get a really great assistant, Sarah. And then Sarah moved on, and I had Emma. And now I am just kind of floating out here going, I wonder what's next. And so get a bookkeeper. And if you need an assistant, get an assistant, part-time assistant. But know what you want. Also, this just popped into my head, Iris. And I'm curious what you think about this. The whole networking thing. So beware the networking groups that try and convince you. I've had this happen twice. I had the first business networking group I got involved with, which I will not name. One of the members convinced me to take out a loan. I had no money. To take out a loan through PayPal to pay my dues. And it was with the intention of, you'll make it back. We'll give referrals for you and you'll make it back so fast. It'll be great. No, because they didn't understand the work that I did. Right. I mean, those groups make so much sense for realtors, mortgage people, like people who have these businesses where they are these rock businesses, right? Website design, like things like that, right? I really encourage people to think about the networking groups you're joining. Don't just join them because you think that it's like they're making promises that you can't identify. Really get in touch and connect with networking groups that resonate in your heart and your soul.
And I would say, really, join your chamber.
Yeah.
Or go to some chamber meetings and
go to chamber meetings
and get to know the people. And then you'll know which networking groups you want to join. Right. I mean, there's that.
Yep.
But going back to the, 6 figures, 7 figures, whatever. And I remember that, Lindsay and I kind of like looked at each other and laughed because it was like, $1 million, mid, millions to whatever. And it was just like so foreign because I didn't get into this, and my wife will shoot me when I say this, but not literally. Let me just throw that out there. But I didn't get in this for the money. I got into it. Yes, of course I want to make money.
Sure.
But I got into it because I love it. I love helping people, and I love people's. Lorraine was saying it on our podcast yesterday, and it was like the aha moment when you're helping them, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh!" So I did a thing on LinkedIn today. I did a video, and the video was about positive marketing, right? Like when you're working with people, it's like you don't tell them what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
You tell them what they're doing right.
Yeah.
And then you build on that. And that's what I do. And that's what I love. And that's why the whole, me being a light worker and me being, me helping lift people up and all of that. That's the joy that I get out of it. And so, my advice is just make sure whatever you're doing, you love it.
Oh, yeah. You gotta love it. Yeah. You're going to do it all the time. You're going to think about it all the time.
Yeah.
So it better be something you love. Because if it's something you just think, oh, I could make money doing this, it's not the jam.
No, 100%. So, what? Should we talk about, the thin veil? Let's talk about that a little bit.
The thinnest veil.
The thinnest veil.
Yeah. So I was thinking about. So there's this moment when I'm working with people where they become so astounded that they're crying. And it happens, I would say 9 times out of 10, that they're so astounded that they're crying that everything has come down. Right. And if they're not crying, like if I can get through an entire 1-hour divination session with someone and they're not crying, then that tells me they haven't given themselves permission to be all the way in. That's what usually inevitably happens. Every one of my clients is like, why am I crying right now? And I'm like, well, do you want to talk about that? Because so when I created the Thinnest Veil podcast, one of the things I really wanted to talk about was many different religions, many different viewpoints, and also just my own process of connecting to spirit and how spirit has woven its way through my life. And what happened when I finally came out as both a Christian and a witch. Because when that happened, no one was more shocked than me. Like I was like, what am I doing here? Like, what is happening to me? And I wanted to be able to talk about these things because I feel like there's so many people like me who have been harmed by evangelical Christianity or conservative Christianity, Mormonism, Catholicism, but still very much deeply believe in God. And not God, the wrathful, judgmental God that we've been led to believe exists, but this beautiful, loving, graceful love, this love that resonates through the whole universe. It's ever present. It's everywhere. And it's been here since creation. And creator, from a Native American, from a Native Indigenous standpoint, creator is what created all that. We're all speaking the same language here. Creator created this thing and created the animals and the water and the dirt and the trees and the stars and the sun and the moon and all these things that we love. And so I didn't want to go to church. I did not grow up in church. I grew up as a queer Indigenous. Well, I didn't grow up Indigenous. I didn't grow up with my people because of some stuff with my family. That's a whole nother podcast. But I'm not going to get into it, but I didn't grow up around
podcasts now. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do. But I knew in my spirit and my soul what it means to be Indigenous, which is a really important thing, I think, for people to understand. And there was no way in hell you were going to catch me dead in the church. And my oldest daughter, when we moved here to Corvallis, really wanted to go to church. And I was terrified. I thought, there is no way I want to do this. And what ended up happening, long story short, I called a gay couple that I knew were Episcopalians in Southern California. And I said, I need you to help me find a church. And one of them did the research for me because I was just so afraid. I didn't even know where to start. So we ended up at the Church of Good Sam in Corvallis. And I walked in the first day and just started bawling. And every Sunday for 3 months, I would go into church, be filled with so much love and light that I would just bawl. I mean, and I'm an ugly crier, Iris. I'm not like this subtle crier. I got snot coming out of my nose. I'm like feeling the Holy Spirit. And I'm all, what is happening to me? I don't even understand. I don't believe this shit. Like, what is going on? And my husband would be like, let's dip in today. And I'm like, no, we're going to church. And Jim's like, what is going on? And it was bananas to me. Like, it was like, still to this day, I'm sitting here going, really, Bird? Like, for real? Like, this is where you're choosing to go? But there was something so remarkable to be sitting there and be filled with this love that I've never, ever felt that way in my life, ever. And at the same time, I met this beautiful woman named Wendy, who studies feminist theology at a local university here, and who I was crying to Wendy. And I was like, I don't know what to do because I really like being a witch because I'm really good at it. And I like magic and I'm really good at it. And I'm really good at it. And I love it. And it makes me so happy. And at the same time, like, I love Jesus, really love Jesus a lot. And so can I be both those? And I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm good. And Wendy's like, did you know you could be both? And I was like, whatever. Right. And she's like, not only that, but you can teach people that they can be both too. And I was like, that's not real. And then she started telling me, speaking of the bridge, she started talking to me about how in like when Christianity really came to the Celtic people in like Scotland and, Ireland and the UK and all these places, there were women they were pagan women called the bridge builders, and they would move back and forth between Christianity and paganism. And she goes, yeah. And there you go, Iris. Wow. And she goes, you're the bridge. So be the bridge. And I was like, what? And she's like, you can be both. And then her and Father Simon, my old priest, he left a year or two ago to go to another church. Father Simon and Wendy conspired to get me up on the pulpit preaching. And I was like, this is some real crap right here. I'm not getting up on that. No, I'm not preaching in church. I just want to sit there and cry with my snot and the Holy Spirit filling me in, loving Jesus and my magic all at the same time. You're not going to get me on the pulpit. And they're like, oh, we are. And so then I started preaching. And so when I created The Thinnest Veil, it was to create a space where people could come and listen to me, just do my jam like I had done with all those Facebook Lives in the very, very beginning, but to really talk about spirituality and religion and magic in a way that brings it all together for people, so that we can have an open and honest conversation about what it's like to be a spiritual being living in these bodies. Because I believe that the purpose of the body is to host the soul. Mm-hmm. And we are souls here having this human experience. And when we remember that we are the land and we are the medicine and we are all intricately woven together because we are of creation, then what happens is all this crap, this religious nonsense that teaches us about sin and all of these things, it goes away. Because that's when we connect to the universe. That's when we connect to source. That's when we connect to God. And we realize that when we embrace both the light and the dark of what it means to be alive, we remember that we are spiritual beings and we breach the veil. That is the thinnest veil, is we can see both.
Wow. Whew. That's intense.
Yeah.
It's awesome though. I mean,
that was a good sermon. I'm really proud of it right now.
Glad it's go. I mean,
glad it's recorded on TV.
But the cool thing, when you say that is, so for me, my friend Shoshana is, she's intuitive. She's going to be on here as well. But like, I love her to death, and I call myself Witch Light because I'm not a witch per se, but I do some rituals, and I'm a light worker, and I know that I'm a light worker. Like I know, without a doubt, I know that.
Yeah.
And I have a psychic that I speak to, all the time, and I speak to Show, and she almost, when I said last week, I said, because she's a witch as well. And she's sending me some crystals, because I said to her, I need you to send me crystals, because I go to the store and I get these crystals and I just don't vibe with them. I said, but I think if you send me crystals, I know the love that's going to be with them. So I know they're going to be the right crystals for me. So she did. But anyway, so, so we were talking last week, and so she goes, I sent them out. I was like, that's amazing. And so we started talking about something that I was doing. And I said, see, like, I'm not like a full on witch. I said, I'm more witch light. And she just giggled. She said, that's okay. She goes, witch light. There were. So
I think again, like this is the thing about being a spiritual being, which every single one of us is, because we all have a soul. We really, literally, actually do.
Yep.
We love our labels, and we love figuring out where we fit in and how to categorize.
That's what it was, though, for me. And we'll talk about this.
Yeah.
Because
but I think and I think that part of this, especially running a spiritual business, right? Like I see this, people want us to say, well, what do you do? Well, I can tell you what people experience when they work with me, but I cannot actually tell you what I do.
Right.
Because it's different every time. There's no, I mean, I have a strategy, right? Like I'm like, well, we're going to talk for 20 minutes and then I'm going to pull your tarot cards, and right. Like I do that, but I cannot explain what I do.
Right.
Because what I do changes every client. I mean, I had something happen this morning with a client that blew my mind. And that, you know what? That's the best part about running a spiritual business and doing this work, like doing divination sessions and channeling dead people and reading tarot cards, like for real. Every time I do a reading, I'm all, what just happened? Wait a minute. Was that like, whoa, right? Like the fireworks that happened, right? Like that legitimately is like a visual representation of what happens when people work with me.
Wow. And that was, that's kind of crazy. Yeah. That was pretty wild. So we are actually almost an hour. So, okay. So, how do people get hold of you?
Oh, yes. So you can find me on the socials at birdgirl1001. I'm pretty consistent there, except for with LinkedIn, it's Dr. Melissa Bird. Dr. Melissa Bird. My website is drmelissabird.com. And you can find me on Substack at birdgirl1001. So my Substack is so you get a weekly sermon that I read. And you can subscribe to my Substack to get the readings. you do get a free channeled message every Wednesday, and then a love note every Friday. And for my subscribers, I read the love notes. So if you aren't a subscriber, you get a free love note once a month and a free channel message every Wednesday. If you're a subscriber, you get a sermon and a channel message and a love note. And you can also find me on my podcast at the Tennis Veil on all the podcasting platforms. And I'm taking a little break. So you can catch up. If you've never listened to my podcast, you have like 49 episodes that you get to listen to because I'm getting my knees replaced. So my first knee replacement is actually right after we do this interview. Not right after, but like, a couple days from now. And so taking a little break from my podcast, you should totally catch up to my podcast.
Yes.
And then I really do hope people go out and buy the book. I was driving. And I thought, wow, wouldn't it be so amazing if like 100 people read my book? Not because I want 100 people to buy my book for the money. I like money, don't get me wrong. But because I thought to myself, how remarkable would it be if there were 100 people that were reading just those 7 prayers? Like there's a prayer for the rebels and a prayer for the spring. And like, what would happen if 100 people were reading that prayer? That would change the world. It would like literally, legitimately change the energy of the planet. And that's rad.
That's totally rad. Now you're going to have me saying rad. My wife's going to get home and be like, that was rad. She's going to be like, who are you?
Just say, you'll know if you go listen to Dr. Melissa Bird. That's who I am.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. 100%.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for taking the time and for hanging in there with me, because I know this has been a shit show trying to like get this together. So, but we were, so it was going to happen. It was going to happen, and it did. Yay. So the last question that I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
Oh.
Yeah.
Love. Not the cheesy ass romantic bullshit love, but it makes me cry. The minute I realized that I was loved and that I am love and I am loved, it's so beautiful. And to be gifted with this honor of talking about it is just, it's the most amazing thing that I know love because babies laugh. I know love because of the songbirds that show up outside my window every spring. I know love because I get to talk to my great-great-grandpa in my dreams. And I know love because I believe in something bigger than me. I believe in this beautiful, vast, incredible universe, and it is extraordinary. And that's what lights my fire, is talking about love.
Wow. Well, you are extraordinary.
Thank you.
Don't go anywhere. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience and come right back to you.
I gotcha.
Whew, wow. For those of you who have heard these like 90 episodes by this point, I don't even know how many I've recorded. That is the first time that question has been answered like that. And it's going to make me cry. I think that's just one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. So I want to thank you all again for hanging in there an hour plus. I truly hope after meeting Melissa that you think she's as amazing and mind-blowing as I do. If you've gotten nuggets from this, or have learned any lessons, or have gotten any really good information, share, like, subscribe. When you subscribe, you get a notification that there's a new episode, and a new episode comes out usually every Tuesday. But, share it, like it. The more you share, the more you like, the higher we move up. And, that works out great because then I can keep on doing this because I love doing this. And this episode may be one of my favorite because this is why I love what I do. This is why when you get people's hearts, gets me. So anyway, thank you all. I love you all. Keep listening. Keep watching. Until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.